Hi, friends. How are you today? My name is Bailey Sarian, and I'm here to pop in and say hello. Right now, I'm taking a little break because sometimes we all need a little break. So while I don't have a new episode for you today, I thought, I'm not going to leave you hanging without a little murder mystery makeup to hold you over, okay? Listen, today I have a classic clip for you. And this one was wild. I mean, do you remember? No, you don't? Let me tell you. Jas and Tas Whitehead. Yeah. No? Okay, well, the teenage Georgia twins. They had quite the mean and violent streak in them. Well, I dropped the episode a couple of years ago, so listen, if you don't remember, I don't blame you. I barely did. Not really. I think about it. I'll link the full episode down below, but here's a clip from that episode that has lived with me ever since. Roll the clip. When Nikki was 31 years old, her girls were then 13 years old. Robert and Nikki were 6 years into their relationship, I believe. And that's when Robert was like, hey, I want you guys to move to Conyers. I want you to move into my house with me and we can, create our own little family situation. And with Nikki, she was growing up. She wanted different things in life. She wanted to have her kids around and have a sense of family. So she was all on board. Also, Nikki really wanted to have the girls back in her life, and she wanted to be the primary caretaker. She felt like she was in a place where she was ready to be their mom, and yeah, she just felt ready. You get it. So Nikki agreed, and she said okay, and she made it a priority to go get custody of her daughters back, and she was just feeling really excited, like it was going to be a new chapter. New beginning, Plus, Robert had lived in like a nice gated community, so it should be fun. It should be great. I don't know. Some people really like gated communities. They're all right. They're kind of more of an inconvenience, but okay, Okay, so the only problem with this plan is that when Nikki brought it up to the girls, they did not want to move in with this Robert guy. But most of all, they didn't want to move in with their mom. They don't know her as their mom. Oh, so now you're going to show up and take us? We like our life with our grandmother or great-grandmother. So obviously not going to be too excited about that because they don't want to leave their current situation. But even though the girls were resisting hard, Nikki still followed through and she made it happen. She got custody back of the girls. They all moved out of Della's house and into Robert's home. In Conyers. And it was around this time, around the move, that the twins, their behavior just did a 180, allegedly. So people who knew the girls said that their behavior was like night and day. Just things went really south for the girls, Jas and Tas, and their grades even started to slip, which was like wild because they were really smart and did really well in school. And they noticed, like at school and whatnot, that the girls were more angry and they were often becoming quite violent. Whoa. Plus, it doesn't help that they're teenagers, like the worst time to really go through all this major change. I mean, they're not going to be happy about it. Teenagers, huh? Now, Nikki, at home, she's noticing the girls' behavior. And for the first time, she really steps up and puts down some rules, and she becomes very strict. But in reality, she's being a parent, right? The girls, though, they didn't like this because they knew their mom as more of like the older sister party type. So to all of a sudden step up and start acting like a mom was not received well, okay? They were not happy that this lady who hasn't been around for much of their life or like didn't raise them was now making all these rules and demands and just, they were not having it. They were not happy. Nay, they were not happy. And you don't want to piss off teenagers because, they're so scary. According to Nikki's friends, her new strict style of parenting was actually more of a natural progression. She didn't want her children to have the same life that she did, having a child young and kind of just bouncing around and whatnot. She wanted them to do better and be better. And she just wanted better for her kids. When Nikki was around 13 and 14, that's when she said in her own life that, She was becoming like a party girl, going out all the time, not listening to her parents, whatever. And now that the twins were this age, she's kind of seeing the same pattern happening with them, and she doesn't want that. So she's becoming more and more strict to really, in hopes, prevent them from being like her, which sounds really mean, but you get it. You want your kids to do better than you did. Hopefully, be better, right? I get it. But when you're a teenager, you do not get that. Well, the twins, they definitely didn't like this. They thought it was very hypocritical because, she's going out partying, or was like a big party girl, whatever, and now she's cracking down all these rules on them. To them, it didn't make sense. Like, how are you going to tell us to do this when you're doing the same thing, Mom? Just being a teenager. And when you're a teenager, like, it makes sense because you just can't wrap your head around it. But as an outsider looking in, or if you just are an adult, I'm sure you can understand, like, Nikki is doing the right thing by actually trying to step up and set some rules and boundaries. They're important. So Nikki figured that the girls' behavior had changed so much because of all of the change going on. I mean, Nikki figured that the girls were most likely, based off their behavior and stuff, that they were most likely following in her footsteps and were probably using drugs, having sex. Plus, on top of that, they were dropping out of their after-school activities, and they were spending more time with friends or with boys, So Nikki's trying to crack down on these kids, and they are not having it. Like I had said earlier, they really thought that this was hypocritical of their mother because it was like, Mom, you still go out and have fun. You got a boyfriend and a husband. Like, don't tell me what to do. So I'm sure from their perspective, it's very frustrating to be accused of doing the same things your mother's doing. You get it. Also, there was no proof that the twins were actually living like that, like going out, hanging out with boys, having sex, doing drugs. It's just the assumption that Nikki made. And so she was really trying to crack down on them. So that's probably also why they were getting irritated and angry and upset, because if they weren't doing that, you would be upset too. Teens be teenin'. It didn't take long after moving into the new house and the new situation that the girls, they went from being like angry teenagers, like, I hate you, Mom, to actual violent teenagers. To the point where Nikki, if she did something that they didn't like or set up a rule or boundary they didn't like, they being the daughters, would physically attack her, like really beat her. Nikki had called the police like numerous times because it got so bad. One of them was a biter. I forget which one. One of them really liked to bite, and they would bite the mom. Like, just freaking brutal. It got to a point where Nikki had realized, like, okay, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I should send them back to live with the great-grandmother for a while. And she did just that. The two twins, they go back to live with their great-grandmother for a while. And to them, they registered this as like, oh, so if I beat the crap out of my mom, we get to go back home, So they knew they could get their way if they just were awful to their mother, They wanted to live with Della. That was where their friends were at, their school, stability, and everything. So they were happy to go back with her. They did end up having to go to court for what they did to their mother. But again, they were just sent to live with Della for a while. And this is where the power struggle really started to ramp up in the family, because you have all like these different players with different ideas of how their family should be structured. You had the twin girls, Nikki, their mom. You have their great-grandmother, Della, but also Linda. Remember, Linda is Nikki's mom? Yes, her. So Linda, she had really not been much of a player up until this point. So she starts chiming in, and Nikki is expressing, everything that's been going on, that the girls are just not adjusting well. And, they're also a little violent and dangerous and stuff, it seems. I'm not sure. But that she wanted to have them back in her life. And Linda tells Nikki, I support that decision. You need to get your girls back. That's the right thing to do. You need to be a mom. You need to do that. Which Linda, really wasn't even around much. So it's why are you going to chime in now? But I also can understand why you'd want to listen, because it's all you want is just your mom to be a mom. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just assuming that Nikki listened because, I don't know, she wants advice from her mom. Linda apparently put a lot of pressure on Nikki to reclaim her children. There was a lot of speculation around this that, maybe it was that she didn't want her daughter to be like her. Maybe she had a guilty conscience. Maybe she really didn't like the great-grandmother, Linda. She didn't like her mom and was you need to get your kids out of there or something. But everything's not working. No one's on the same page, it seems like. So the girls, they had beat up their mother pretty badly, and they ended up in court and had to go through the whole court process. And because of this, they actually ended up with court-mandated family counseling. Della said that the family saw up to 6 different counselors over the course of a couple of months. Counselors would write notes, and it would say this family thrives in chaos, and they struggle to take responsibility for who is causing the family stress. Which, fair. Well, it came out in court. I was going to say, aren't you not supposed to make those public? But court. Duh. So the girls end up living back with their mother, and they are beating her up and being very abusive towards her. Nikki calls 911 over and over again. So police in the area know about the family and the girls because they're always being called over there. And this goes on for about 2 years. It's really sad because they really do abuse their mother, Nikki. It's intense, and it's just really, really sad. But the girls end up going back to their grandmother's house. Della and Nikki is continually fighting for her children back, and it's just a hot mess. Okay, it's a hot mess. After nearly 2 years, one of the counselors that worked with them said that their situation with Della, their great-grandmother, even though the twins really wanted to stay there and be there, it wasn't necessarily a better option at all. And that they should be with Nikki, which I'm sure that's not going to go well. So this counselor is telling them that, yeah, the kids should go back with Nikki. That's their mother. The swapping around between families is just causing more problems. And the family situation was not stabilizing in any way. Plus, the girls, now that they were teenagers, they didn't go back to their great-grandmother's house and were rainbows and lollipops. It was they were misbehaving. They were getting into trouble still. They were going out, having fun, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Everything is just kind of a hot mess, So in January of 2010, the girls, the twins, are now 16 years old. And the judge grants Nikki custody of the girls once again, which is not a good idea. These girls are pissed. And they know subconsciously, not subconsciously, I think they just freaking know, hey, if we are mean to our mom, we always get sent back, so that's just what we have to keep doing. So I guess nobody was really happy about this situation except for Nikki, I think. But there was another conference that was set up in 2 weeks. It was going to happen in January, later that month, and they were going to reevaluate the situation and just kind of see what was really going on, dig a little bit deeper. But until then, the girls had to go live with their mom, and it was effective immediately. And Nikki, she was doubling down. Not only did she have the girls move back in with her, she actually pulled them from the high school that they were attending and had them start at a brand new high school. Can you imagine? So, you're 16 years old, you already hate your mom and stuff, and then she makes you go to a new school, a high school. They're not happy. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. This is gonna be real bad. But Nikki's trying. She's just trying, She's just trying. But if you've been a teenager before, which I think you probably have been, you know that this is not gonna be a good thing. And sure enough, it didn't take long because a week after moving in, police were called out to the house twice, 2 different times. The whole family gets together to have like a welcome home party for the girls. It didn't go so well because Jas became very upset, very violent. She was like throwing food. She was shoving her aunt into the wall. She was just becoming very aggressive at this welcome home party. It's not funny. I'm laughing because it's just, she's trying. She's really trying, Nikki. She's like, welcome home. And the girls are violent. They are mean. So, I mean, I think it's really easy to see both sides, you know, like Nikki's trying to be welcoming and have the kids have this party and know that like everyone's there for them. But at the same time, the girls don't want to be there. They're angry. This wasn't their home. I'm not saying they have a right to get violent or anything, but I'm sure you're mature enough to understand what I am saying, which is you can see both sides. They didn't want to be there, okay? They just were angry. And it feels like every time Nikki was trying to do something, it just made the situation worse. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do at that point? Now, remember, they're all living at Robert's house. The husband, he's literally never there, and he was on the road. He was gone. So it's just the girls and their mom in the house, and tensions are very high. So this leads us to January 13th, 2010. This is like just a little over a week since the girls were forced to move back in with their mother. Now, I guess this day there was a police officer in the neighborhood patrolling the area, just driving up and down the streets, right? And when this police officer was driving past the girls' home, out comes running Tas. She comes out running from the house, and she is waving her arms trying to get this police officer to stop. So she's screaming, she's just crying, she's a hot mess, and the officer's like, what is going on? I'm here to save the day. I don't know. She ends up telling the deputy that she and her sister had just come home from school, and when they walked in, they saw all this blood, and they discovered their mother dead. So, yes, sad, Nikki is dead, poor woman. She was literally just trying to make shit work, you know? Fuck. For good reason, this deputy's like, I should probably go inside. So he goes into the house, he follows Tas, and he said, like on the record, that this house was an absolute horror show.
Ugh. And we're back. Good Lord. I know. This poor family. I mean, they had been through enough. Now, Nikki, the girl's mom, was dead, and the police had to like work overtime to figure out what happened. You know, I remember researching this case, and even though my gut told me, you know what happened, still shocked by the outcome. If you want to watch the full episode, I'll link it down below. So go ahead and check that out. But listen, I hope you all have a wonderful and safe holiday season and a happy new year. Wild that it's 2026. I'll be back soon with some new episodes. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry. But until then, I hope you have a good day and you make good choices. Goodbye.